So this evening, it's a privilege to have Mr. Abiola Champ. Me and him were talking on the back end. We happen to go to the same uni. We happen to go to the same uni. We happen to be. He's actually such a phenomenal pianist. We happen to be in the same music group, triumphant back in the day at uni, and we're just talking about how amazing it is to see those of us in the back end of wherever our school was, our uni was, busting the world stage, and great men like Abiola has just been taking the world by storm, literally, practically every day on the news waves in Nigeria, and just being part of those people who are coaching and shaping the mindsets of people. And we salute men like you big time. Abiola Champ is actually, I was always going to ask, how did you get the champ in your name? That's very authoritative to just put your name Champ. Where did that come from?
Well, it's a long story. Maybe I will weave it into 30 minutes. So while we were in that school, I've always been the guy that's, on one hand, that you could describe as being multi-talented, right? Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that I play the piano. Piano is the only music instrument that I play. Yeah. I play the drums. I play the bass guitar as well. I could write songs. I could sing. That is for music. I could act as well. I was doing stage acting, big time stage acting. And I will comment on that even on emotional intelligence, because there's something about stage acting that brought about this emotional intelligence thing. And intellectually as well, I mean, in my department, I was one of the best. It's easy if you're doing very well with music and then you're not doing very well academically. You could easily say, oh, this is my calling, right? And then let me just pursue it. Let me just leave this school with whatever, pass, fourth class, whatever it is I'm giving, let me just go. And go face my music, or go face my acting, or go face my fashion, or go face, whatever else. So, and I realized in that school that time that for people who are multi-talented, there is a high tendency for us to be multi-talented and multi-confused at the same time. So which direction should I go? Just like an octopus having 6 hands, So which direction exactly should I go? I mean, I was good at the things I was doing, and that brought me to a point of contemplation in my life where I was seeking meaning. I was asking that, God, I am this gifted. How exactly do you want me to serve with this? I've not been conscious about that, my multi-giftedness before I got into uni. I was in uni, and it even brought it. It became clearer to me, because I can see my peers that, yes, people are very good at one thing or good at 2 things, but here am I, and a few other people that we could do a number of things, and we could do those things very well. So I got to that point of contemplation where I was seeking. Of course, I was reading books. I just wanted to be sure that once I leave school, that I want to be a square peg in a square hole, not just doing everything, not just throwing my hands all around like an octopus. And so in the course of seeking for meaning, I realized that the gift itself, G-I-F-T, it is God's investment for a task. The gift itself has a purpose. And the purpose of my gift is to serve people, so that if they know, to help them to know better, so they can think better, and then they can do better. To help them to know better. So through my intellectual capacity, through my music, through whatever it is, that I'm doing, is to always help people to know better, so they can think better, and then they can do better. And then so I discovered that time. And even as at that time, I also realized that I didn't have all that I require to function on the level that I wanted to function. Abiola has always been the guy that, although he may be at the bottom of the mountain physically, but in his mind is at the top of the mountain. In his mind. And so he doesn't want to operate at the bottom of the mountain. He wants to operate at the top of the mountain. And he also realizes that he doesn't have all that it takes to operate at that top of the mountain. So of course I start climbing from where I was, but the goal is to operate on a high level of excellence. Of course, that led me to many careers, into learning a lot of things. And when it was time, I had the message. When it was time, another type of contemplation again arose. I just knew that I needed to quit 9 to 5. I needed to face this squarely. And then, of course, seeking, listening to people, attending courses. I mean, there was nothing like online courses that time. All these things that we're doing, and I'm talking about some 10, 11 years ago now. This part of the story is some 10, 11 years ago when I started full time with this, resigning as a senior manager in a reputable consulting firm, IT consulting firm in Nigeria. And I just got the word that, man, you're meant to inspire people to rock their world like champions. So inspire them to, yes, know better so they can think better. And then they can do better with your GIFT, with your God's investment for a task. The task is to help people to rock their world like champions. So you see a lot of it about intellectual capacities now. Nothing much about music, but once in a while, I just throw in something. Once in a while, I throw in a piano piece. Once in a while, get to do some acting. Once in a while. But again, like we both know that the gifts and callings are without repentance, and also at different points in time, I also understand the times and seasons, what to focus on, what to expand on, and so champion came as the instruction. I believe I don't have ideas. I only have instructions. I don't think I'm that. I don't think I'm that smart to just wake up one morning and then have this idea. No, I just believe I have instructions, and instructions is just to adjust. Is to adjust man's living. To shape people's thinking, to adjust man's living, so that we can, like I said, know better, think better, and do better. The place of doing is the place of performance. So when you hear something like this new book, The Magic of Emotional Intelligence, The Magic of Emotional Intelligence says how champions apply emotional intelligence to achieve peak performance, the doing, right? To achieve peak performance, and advancement in life. And so when people hear performance coach say, well, there's a place it's coming from, helping people to know better so they can think better and do better. And it's been an incredible journey, I must say.
All right. Hey guys, he hasn't even started talking. We haven't even got to Q&A yet. He's dropping so much. Everybody welcome Mr. Abiola Champ Salami, who is a world-class performance coach, committed to raising world-class leaders and improving the productive capacity and brand perception of organizations and governments. He is an alumnus of Harvard University, Lagos Business School, and American Government's International Vista Leadership Program. His commitment to workforce productivity, youth, and women empowerment, as well as leadership development, led him to publishing books, audios, and visual content, as well as designing and implementing capacity development programs towards achieving the relevant sustainable development goals. He's the author of Get Mad, You Can Make a Difference, Who Says It's a Man's World, and his latest work, The Magic of Emotional Intelligence, which is going to be talking about today. Abiola has acquired over 10 years experience of corporate engagement and capacity development with signature inventions such as Speak Like a Champion, a productive communication program, The Magic of Emotional Intelligence, from boring tales to fantastic sales, a selling and relationship management program, improving team performance, a productivity and synergy activation program, inspiring attitudinal improvement, a performance improvement program, developing executive presence, an image perception enhancement program, and an exceptional leadership, a comprehensive leadership development program. Now, in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, Abiola championed a campaign that reached over 1 million people in handling panic in the wake of the coronavirus. He also released a free book in that season on how to enjoy sound emotional and mental health during the coronavirus pandemic. Abiola was announced in the United Nations, supported top 100 most influential people of African descent class of 2020 upon the opening of the United Nations 75th General Assembly. Abiola was announced. Abiola was also recognized as one of the African's most influential coaching leaders by the Duo of African Leadership Awards and World HRD Congress. He prefers to impact and influence, look at the choice of words, by adopting a practical approach replete with vivid stories and experiences. When he's not delivering talks and coaching champions, he spends time reading and playing the piano and acting on the screen. You can connect with him on at Abiola Champ. Hello, guys. Hello, Thrivers. You are in for a great time. Please meet my friend. Uh, it's over 20 years now. It's actually over almost 30 years, you know. It's going on over 25, 30 years. Please welcome to the Thrivers group, Mr. Abiola Champ Salami. He's going to speak and teach on emotional intelligence for the next 25 minutes or so. And we'll be back and have Q&A. Over to you, my friend.
Fantastic. Thank you for the opportunity. And hello, Thrivers. And happy anniversary, Thrivers. It's the last week in May 2021. And I'm told this group started the last week of May 2020. Grateful to God that we all saw through the pandemic, the height of the pandemic. And for those who lost loved ones or loved known people during that period, you know, my wish for you is that the Lord will continue to comfort your heart. It was a serious time of crisis in the world, but thank God that we're alive and breathing today. And you know, emotional intelligence is one of those skills required to thrive, both in times of crisis or even when there is no crisis. But last year, it became very important even for people to start to develop their emotional intelligence and handling crisis. Now, when you hear emotional intelligence, what does emotional intelligence mean? It simply means your capacity, my capacity, you and I, our capacity to understand our emotions, to use the understanding of our emotions to manage ourselves, and also to understand the emotions of other people, to use our understanding of their emotions to manage them. Now, let me expand this definition a little bit. It means that, one, to understand your emotions, to know the triggers for your emotions, the drivers of your emotions, not just that you get angry, to know why you get angry, why you feel angry, to not just that you are excited, to know why you feel excited, and not just momentarily, to know what it is that takes you on, what it is that triggers certain emotions in you, what triggers fear in you, what triggers anger in you, what triggers sadness in you, what triggers excitement in you, what triggers confidence in you. Because many times when we talk about emotional intelligence, people think that we're only talking about managing negative emotions, but it's also important for us to manage positive emotions. In fact, for positive emotions, we cultivate positive emotions and we manage positive emotions. Confidence, for example, is a positive emotions, but there is a way you can extend confidence beyond its use. And when you show up overconfident, you know, in certain situations, it is no more confidence, it is now arrogance. It could be termed as pride. While your intention may not be pride or arrogance, your intention may be to speak confidently, but because of the particular situation that you are in, that confidence may be misinterpreted for pride or arrogance, which is why emotional intelligence is critical, that you know the level of emotions to dispense at different points in time. You know, people will talk about building confidence. I'm sure a number of people listening, watching me now, you have probably attended a confidence building session or program or training, or maybe you're even talking to your colleagues. If you're an HR person or you're a leader in your organization, you're probably talking about a confidence building program. From my work, I realized that what we should do to confidence is not to build confidence. What we have to do with confidence is to regulate confidence, is to develop the capacity to regulate confidence such that you can tweak it, let's say from 0 to 10, for example, such that you know if what is needed at that particular point in time is to just switch it to 1 so that you can be productive, or you need to switch it all the way to 9 or 10 so that you can be productive, depending on the situation that you're dealing with, depending on the kind of people as well around you that you're dealing with. There are people that you relate with and you come off as you think that it's been confidence and that they feel they are being bullied by you, you know, which is why emotional intelligence is important. That part is understanding yourself and then understanding other people. You know, so emotional intelligence is that critical skill to help us even under pressure. I mean, many of us, I'm sure when you attended your first interview, they'll probably ask you about pressure. That, so can you work under pressure? And many times on our first interview, when that question comes up, we would say, oh yes, we can work under pressure. In fact, we say that, you know what, if there is no pressure, I cannot function. I only function effectively when there is pressure. So give me the pressure. Make it press down, shaking together and running over. Just serve me some pressure. Make sure it's not just a cup. Serve me a drum or a tank load of pressure, and then I can be effective. Until you get a small spoon, tablespoon of pressure, and then you just cave in, that you really see real pressure. Emotional intelligence is also what helps us to manage ourselves under pressure, to see how we react under pressure, how we respond under pressure. You know, one of the people I respect so much regarding emotional intelligence is Dr. Daniel Goleman, who talked about emotional intelligence and shared it into 4 aspects. There's also a 5th aspect that he shared it. He classified it as later on, but let me just talk about the 4. The first one is about self-awareness, which is what I shared earlier, which is your own capacity to know yourself, your capacity to understand your emotions, your capacity to know why you feel the way you feel, your capacity to know what the drivers of your emotions are, what the triggers of your emotions are. Now, I know that we have a multicultural audience on this call, but I like to use a colloquial Nigerian word to describe triggers when it comes to self-awareness and emotional intelligence. That trigger, I use the colloquial expression I use is mumu button, which is something someone can press, something someone can trigger, and it will make you behave in a particular way. Because you see, it is important for you to have self-awareness. Because many times when we don't even have self-awareness, other people are aware of ourselves, right? We may not be aware of certain things. Yes, you may not be the best mirror or the best judge of your behavior, the best mirror for your emotions, but other people may know. And when they know and we don't know, they can use it against us. They can use it to distract us. So somebody perhaps know that you get angry easily at a particular thing, and the person wants to distract you from something you're supposed to approve or something you're supposed to get. Then the person can press what I call the move button, which is the trigger. And then, of course, because that is the way you are, then you get angry. Then you are dealing with the issue because you are angry. And then some other opportunities bypassing you. The person's real intention is not to get you angry. The person's real intention is to make you miss an opportunity, and they know that the way for you to miss the opportunity is for you to get angry, and they say or do something that will get you angry. Now, when we speak of emotional intelligence, some people think that we're saying that, oh, it means you will never be angry. No. Emotional intelligence says that you will feel angry, but the choice, the action that you take after the feeling of after the feeling of anger is what determines whether you are emotionally intelligent or not. You know, elementary biology taught us that after stimulus, that there's response. So, for example, I mean, some of the examples they gave to us in irritability in biology back in the day is if you touch the face of a hot iron, almost as soon as you touch it, you will not leave your hand on it. Once you feel it's hot, you immediately take off your hand. Now, that is irritability. That is biology. And so in psychology, which is with emotional intelligence, it is said that between stimulus and response, that there is something in between, and that is the power to choose our response. Meaning that you could as well touch the face of that hot iron, and you may not immediately remove your hand. You may choose to remove it or to leave it there. That is in psychology. Now, I've not said that you should go plug an iron and try what I'm saying. Don't try that. But the way it applies to us is about triggers and our responses. So if somebody insults you, for example, behaving like a biological being is that you immediately respond to the person, by maybe insulting the person back, or by allowing what the person has said to confuse you or to distract you from the work that you're doing. What makes you highly emotionally intelligent is that after the person says what he or she says or does what he or she does, you can choose what your response would be. You can choose whether you want to respond to the person, or you can choose whether you want to keep quiet. You see, emotional intelligence is what helps us to strengthen our willpower. What is largely weakened through our nature and nurture, and I will reflect on nature and nurture a little bit. What is largely weakened is our willpower, our power to choose our responses. our power to choose what we say at particular period of time, that the stress doesn't push us to do anything, that other people don't push us to do anything, that what we see on the media doesn't push us to just do something, that even a statement from someone we highly respect, whether in the place of a president of our country, a politician somewhere, a religious leader somewhere, or even our parents or our senior siblings, or our bosses, people will respect, in such that, yes, they may say something. It is emotional intelligence that helps us to receive what they've said, to appraise what they've said in our situation, and to know the right response to go, such that we are not just influenced, we are not just tossed to and fro by whatever it is that we have subjected ourselves to. You see, people, I believe thrivers, I believe that none of us is smart. Not any thriver watching me right now is smart. Not even me, I'm not that smart. All of us, we are smart as the influences we submit ourselves to. When I submit myself to a particular kind of influence, my smartness is determined by that which I've submitted myself to. And emotional intelligence teaches us to be conscious about who and what we submit ourselves to, because whatever we submit ourselves to influences us. That is why you see someone who looks so smart, and the person will make certain decisions, and you'll be wondering, what is wrong with this individual? You look at someone who seems to have it all going on, who seems to have integrity, who perhaps talks about integrity every night, every day, on every platform. And then the person will make a particular decision at a particular point in time that does not reflect character, that does not reflect integrity. The reason is that the individual is being influenced, and the person is not consciously thinking, consciously aware of what is influencing him or her. So the place of self-awareness is the beginning of emotional intelligence, which is you understand the triggers, the drivers of your emotion, what pushes you to do what it is that you do, that you're not just living by rote, that you're not just living life anyhow, but you are consciously living, that you pay attention to what is motivating you to act in a particular way or not. So that's the beginning of it, self-awareness. The second part of it is self-management, which is by virtue of the knowledge you have about yourself, about your triggers and the drivers of your emotions, that you manage yourself easily. You see, there are some of us that we have nicknames on this call. We had nicknames in high school, and the most likely reason your nickname got stuck when your friends were calling you that name in high school is because the first time or anytime they call you that name, you get angry, you react, and then of course your friends are excited to see you behave that way. And then because they always want to see you behave that way, they are just catching fun, right? So they will remember what I call the mumu button again, then they will press that button, they will press the trigger, and then you react. Self-management says that because I know that I get angry when somebody says XYZ to me, I will ensure that whenever they say it, I don't get angry, because I know I'm susceptible. Because I know I'm susceptible to that, which is why I said earlier that it's important for us to have self-awareness. It was Socrates many, many years ago that said that to thyself be true. Aristotle was the one that said that the beginning of success is know thyself. Say the first rule of success is know thyself. And when we are saying know yourself, we're not asking for your gender, we're not asking for your race, we're not asking for your nationality, we're not even asking for your faith, because the core of who you are, and we're analyzing this religiously, scientifically, psychologically, all of that put together. Because again, one of the reasons we don't know as much as we should know, and we function less than what we are created, how we are created to function, is because we focus on a particular part of knowledge, and we drill only into that knowledge, and we think that that is all that is. Now, no matter the faith that you share, you will all agree with me that God is all knowing. If you believe in God, you know God is all knowing. And the knowledge of God is not just religious. The knowledge of God shows, yes, in religion, shows in psychology, shows in biology, shows in geology, shows in all the logies, right? And everything together is what God represents. But for some of us that were very religious, we have a narrow mindset, and we just think that theology or whatever we read in the Holy Quran or the Holy Bible, we just take it as that is all that there is. But when we expand our minds to studying more, you even find some explanations of some of the scriptures, whether it's the Torah, whether it's the Bible, whether it's the Holy Quran, and even for Buddhists as well, you find explanation for these things that you believe. You find them in all these other logics. You find it in biology. You find it in psychology. In fact, you'll better understand them, by opening your minds up to learning some more. So we're saying that the core of who we are is not who we are saying right now. The core of who I am is not what we're saying now. This is just a suit, right? My body is just a suit. And the core of who I am is in my soul that is on the inside. And emotional intelligence helps me to strengthen my willpower, that is a component of my soul, that help me to control my emotions, that is a content of my soul, such that when I behave, so that when I respond to issues, my willpower helps me to determine what my emotions will project. Now, I can feel angry, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I will get angry and flare up every other time. So there is self-awareness. We've established that. There is self-management. We've established that. The third part of it is social awareness. And what is social awareness? Just the direct opposite of self-awareness, which is knowing other people, understanding other people. You see, in self-awareness, understanding your emotional triggers, understanding your own needs and your own concerns helps you, to be conscious, to consciously live, that you can manage yourself based on these emotions, your needs, and your concerns. It's the same thing for other people, because some people, when they hear of emotional intelligence, they think it's only about themselves, but it's for you and other people. So social awareness is you understand people. Social awareness is understanding other people, understanding their needs, understanding their concerns, understanding their emotions, understanding what drives them, understanding what makes them do what they do, understanding what makes them think the way they think, and what makes them do what they do, understanding what their needs are, understanding what their thinking is. And the quick word that comes to mind is empathy. Empathy is a component of social awareness. Empathy says seek first to understand before you are understood. You see, the cause of a lot of conflict is because we decide not to understand the people that we are relating with. And I consciously use the word decide because it's about a choice. Remember, what we're saying is emotional intelligence helps us to strengthen our willpower so that we can choose what we say and what we do at different points in time. So we decide not to understand what the other person is saying. And if you check it out very well, one of the synonyms of conflict is misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. So misunderstanding is that I don't understand what it is you're talking about. I don't get it. And instead of me to spend some more time to carefully listen to you, to carefully observe you, and perhaps ask questions to clarify, to know where you're coming from, to know what's driving you, to know your concerns and your needs, I just want to project my own concerns and my own needs. And so I don't really pay attention to what it is that you want. What is it that you're looking for? I don't pay attention to your emotions. I just want to have my way. And then that's the beginning of conflict. And then you describe me as being unfriendly, as being insensitive, and then in an intimate situation, the spouse would describe the other one as being insensitive. Like you're not even caring. And those words will start coming out, that insensitive, not caring, has a nonchalant attitude. And the reason for this is because we don't show empathy. Empathy says seek first to understand before you are understood. The tools for empathy, I think the primary tools for empathy is this, our ears. The primary tools for empathy, our ears, and also our mind. I believe that the reason every human being has one mouth and generally two ears is because we are meant to listen more than we speak. And that is a great lesson in empathy, is that we're meant to seek to understand before we are understood. Your mouth is your gadget for seeking to be understood. Your ears and your mind are the gadgets for seeking to understand. And so every communication begins with you seeking to understand. The way to show emotional intelligence is that you don't project yourself first. You don't project your cares and your worries first in relating with people. It's first you want to understand them. And you see, as humans, you and I, we equate understanding with care and with love. It is, there's this quote that we all probably know in Thrivers, that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. which is you don't care whatever it is that I know until you realize that I really truly care for you. And how can I care about you if I don't listen to you? How can I care about you if I don't empathize with you? And the proof of listening is not just silence. Somebody said that silence is right in listening all the way around, the other way around. But you can actually be silent without necessarily listening. You can be silent just waiting for your own time to respond. And then you're just waiting for the person to finish so that you can see what it is that you want to say. Whether it is within the context of the conversation or not, it doesn't matter. Whether it will help the conversation or not, it doesn't matter. You just have your own goal, something you want to achieve, and that's what you want to project. And this is also the source of conflict, in organizations, source of conflict in intimate relationship, source of conflict among siblings, among parents. So whether your professional relationships or your personal relationships, this is how relationships start to dip, start to wane. And you don't want your relationships to wane. You want to wane always with your relationship. Not that you are winning over the people you are in relationship with, but you are winning with the people that you are in that relationship with. With that, you can set a goal and together you achieve it. Team says together, everybody achieves more. And also social awareness is critical. It is about empathy. It's about seeking to understand the needs, the drives, the emotions, the concerns of other people, putting other people first. Putting other people first. And of course, when you have this understanding, and then the final part of relationship management is easy, because now that I understand you, I know your cares and your worries and your concerns. Whatever I would say with my mouth to you and the course of our conversation will be to address that need and that concern. So for some of us that we lead teams, this is where emotional intelligence is critical. So you are leading a team of, let's say, 5 people. Yes, the goal is for them to achieve whatever the organization has designed over a period of time. But while that is the goal, in even resourcing your team, in sourcing your team members before resourcing them, in sourcing your team members, you want to show empathy, social awareness. You want to understand the capacities of your team members. You want to know what are the things required in the team before you even recruit the team members. What do you require done in this team? What are the requirements for this goal that the organization has set for you? And then you seek out people who have the requisite skills in order to achieve that goal. Peradventure, some people were just foisted upon you. You didn't have a choice on who becomes members of your team to achieve this goal. You can still apply emotional intelligence by seeking to now understand the strengths and the areas of improvement of each of the people on your team. If you observe consciously, I didn't say their strengths and their weaknesses, because I believe that a weakness is a state that we've agreed and we think that we cannot outgrow it. But when we see what many people call weakness, when we see there's an area of improvement, it means we are committed to working consciously on it, to developing ourselves. Every one of us, you and I, we're products of nature and nurture. Nature that's natural, that's hereditary. So some of us, as we speak now, you probably look like your father, you look like your mother, you look like your grandparents, or you look like one distant relative within your family. That is physical, that is nature. For some of us, it even goes beyond just looking like them. Some of us, we actually sound like them. The tone of our voice, we sound like them. And some of us, it's not just that we sound like our relatives. Some of us, our gaits, that is G-A-I-T, the way we walk like our relatives. I remember back in the day, there was this neighbor of ours that, there were about, I think, some 6 boys in that family. And you don't need to even know whoever is walking, approaching you exactly. You just need to observe the gait. There's a way they bounce, every one of them in the family. And it's not learned, it's natural. Because I'm sure that their dad didn't gather them together in a room and say, guys, you know what? Anytime you're walking in the afternoon on the street, you need to walk like this. I don't think the father taught them that. It's just natural. That is part of nature. So some of us, we have that as nature. The other part of nurture are the things that we learned, realization, so in our schools, the things our family members taught us and the things we picked up by ourselves, we're products of all of that. And as we continue to grow, adulthood and maturity is that we should know the things that we unlearn, right? Some things that are not some productive behaviors, productive thinking, productive thoughts rather that we have that will not help us to rock our world like champions, that will not help us to be thrivers as we're meant to be, that will not help us to achieve our goals, that we'll learn to gradually unlearn them, and then we start to learn the skills, acquire the skills that will help us to function adequately. You need to let me know how am I doing with time, because seeing your face, how am I doing with time? Sorry, I didn't get that. You need to unmute.
So I was on mute. You're saying all the right ones. We can begin to round up so that I can just keep listening to you all evening. But yeah, you can begin to bring us to some kind of conclusion.
Okay, great.
But I kind of wanted to go from, when you talked about the family who bounces and things like that.
Yeah.
I've climbed, back in the day, I climbed on an Okada once in Akoka. And I grew up in Akoka. And literally the guy stopped and asked me, said, is this person your sister? Is this person your brother? I said, yes. And he could literally tell. He could literally tell. He described them. He could literally tell just by the sound of our voice that we're the same people who always got on his bike. So yeah, so that struck a chord with me. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's nature, right? That's nature. Nurture has to do with the environment, how we've grown up. For example, certain people who grew up in a slum may have the tendency to behave in a particular way when you compare them with people who grew up in a highbrow environment. And the challenge for us with emotional intelligence is that you could actually have grown up in a slum, right? And you could have left that slum, but it takes some conscious effort to ensure that the slum leaves you. There's this general saying, that people left the village, but the village has not left them. And so it's about knowing and unlearning those things so that it doesn't affect even your leadership. So you're leading a team of people, in your workplace. Yes, I began by saying that you need to know what the requirements for success is so that you choose who should be on your team. And peradventure, you didn't have the opportunity to be the one to select who will be on your team. Emotional intelligence is paying attention to each one of them to understand their strengths and their areas of improvement. Because you see, you cannot really influence somebody you don't know. You cannot really lead someone you don't know. The failure of leadership in organizations and communities is because a lot of leaders don't even pay attention to understanding the needs and the concerns of those that they are leading. Now, I've not said that you should pack up your work and then go start staying in the houses of the people you are leading, and because you need to know them. It's about asking some simple questions. At times, you may not even have to ask any question. It's just about listening to them. Because a lot of times, when people think that you're trying to elicit information from them, they may become defensive, right? But in their regular interaction and the things that they say to you, you start to get to understand the individual. And you can seek clarification by asking questions to understand what it is that you've heard, to know whether it is true or false. You see, the thing with emotional intelligence is when we are highly emotionally intelligent, we're able to manage ourselves effectively. We're able to always put our best foot forward. We're able to thrive even under pressure. And also we're able to be at our best with people, no matter how difficult we may think someone is. One of the things I realized on the work that I do, and focusing on Champ for almost 10 years now, is that there are a lot of people that we term to be difficult, and they are not necessarily difficult. Some of them just need a little bit more of understanding. There are people we term difficult, but what these people have done is they've put a defense around themselves because they know that they are so soft and they are susceptible to anything people say to them. So they build a wall around themselves, and then you think they are difficult. But if we cultivate the habit of paying attention to them and understanding them, empathy and understanding them, and we realize we understand their needs, their concerns, and their emotions, and we can do something I call touching the heart before asking for a hand, right? We will be in a great relationship with them. Everybody has a need. Everybody. Including the gentleman I call my uncle, Aliko Dangote. Everybody has something they are looking for. And you actually have something that a lot of people are looking for. It's always about paying attention to know what that pain point is for people and then helping them to put a balm on it to help them to heal it for them. And it's not about using emotional intelligence to manipulate people. It's about using emotional intelligence to cultivate effective win-win relationships with people. I hope with these few points of mine, I'll be able to just share some thoughts, with you on emotional intelligence. I mean, it's a very interesting topic for me, and it's something I started doing unconsciously, and which is one of the reasons I wrote the book. Some years ago, a friend of mine reached out to me, which is now I'm answering the question you asked earlier that I said I will infuse it into this. A friend of mine reached out to me on my birthday to say, "Hey, happy birthday." And then he went further to say that, these days when I see you teaching emotional intelligence, I think the people you are teaching don't understand what you're even talking about. And I thought, gentlemen, you should watch what you say, going forward. Yes, you are my friend and we can banter and all of that. How can you say to me that people who are paying good money, to listen to what I have to say, that I'm coaching them through emotional intelligence and other areas? How can you say they don't really know what I'm talking about? They are paying, dude. Have you ever paid me, for me to train you or coach you? So how can you say that these people, who are receiving value, who keep coming back, don't know what they're talking about? And then he referred me to an experience we shared together. That experience will be about 20 years in the month of July 19th. And it's about how I lost my dad. I had said earlier on the call that I was the kind of person you could describe as being multi-talented. So we were preparing for this major drama presentation. And I'd gone for a dress rehearsal on a Thursday evening. It was a church drama presentation. And my church was on my street back home then. And so while we're all outside, 20 years ago, we're all just outside chilling before the rehearsal would start. Young guys and young girls, everybody just talking, just playing. And then my younger brother ran across and I thought, this is 10 p.m. What's this guy doing outside? And he said my dad was gasping for breath. That he did that. So my dad had, my dad was asthmatic. So he said we needed to get something. And it was late. There was no pharmacy that was still be open around that time. This is back in Ibadan, Nigeria. Just to put this in context. Yeah. And so I just thought that, no pharmacy will be open. Can we take him to the hospital? There's a clinic close by. And then so I went back home with my brother. So my dad, my mom, my brother, and myself, 4 of us, we walked to the clinic that night. We're at the gate of the clinic, knocked. The clinic has been shut. The gate has been shut. The clinic was still operational. And so we knocked the door and the gates. We screamed, we shouted. For the nurses on duty to know that there's an emergency. And the lady that was talking to us from inside didn't even come out to talk to us. Said she had closed, that we should go away. Blah, blah, blah. We said there's an emergency. Someone is gasping for breath. Just bring us a Ventolin. Just let him have maybe 2 or 3 puffs or so. Even if you don't open the gate for us, let him lie down on the floor. After a while, then he will get back himself and all of us will walk back home. So the lady did not answer us. So my dad gave up at the gate, holding the gate. That's where he died. Remember, I left a dress rehearsal. There were no mobile phones like that then. So I couldn't call anybody to let them know where I was. I'm sure that they were wondering because I was playing a major role on that drama. So went back home that night. That morning, is already morning now. That should have been around maybe 12:30 a.m. or so. Of course, in the morning, I went back to the rehearsal venue because the drama was actually now happening on the Friday, to let my friends know what happened the day before, why I didn't show up. And that was the beginning of everything that changed for me. That was like the second half of my life, and I'm still in that second half till now. And so what my friend was saying to me is that despite that happened to me, that I lost my dad. I'm firstborn, by the way. If you are African, you probably understand what it means to be firstborn, especially if you're a firstborn son. It doesn't matter what your age is. Automatically, you inherit a wife you did not propose to. That's my mom. And you inherit children you did not give birth to. Those are my siblings. Especially if there's no uncle or auntie to latch onto or to call on anytime. And so despite that, in the evening, I showed up for my part of the drama, played the piano, set the soundtrack with my friend Opeyemi, got on stage to play my part. Then the following day, that was the major gig. I was there as well to do all the things I did. Now, this is what my friend said to me. He said that while I wasn't there, that all the other guys gathered together and they said, Abiola, and they said to themselves that do you know that if this has happened to any other person on this team, we will most likely cancel this presentation? See, that presentation is something we had planned for like 3 months. Thankfully, there was some strike around that period, so everybody was at home. Something we had planned for 3 months, something we had gone to do publicity, that everybody, I mean, the venue was jammed, and then really jammed, and then that we would have canceled it. And so he said to me that that's what they said. He said when that happened 20 years ago, that because he had not encountered emotional intelligence yet, he didn't know what to use to describe it until he started studying emotional intelligence, and he went back to it. So anytime he hears emotional intelligence, he goes back to that story that, so this guy was bereaved, was grieving, right? This is his dad. This is the breadwinner. It means no more school fees. It means no more a lot of things, you know, and he understands the reality. And despite that, he could show up not for a job, not because he doesn't want to lose money. It's not like I was on an hourly rate, and then if I don't show up, you know, not because he wants to lose money, but just because there's a commitment to get this done, you know. And so he said, so you don't just teach emotional intelligence, Abiola. You have been practicing emotional intelligence. Okay, well, perhaps you know what you're talking about. Well, please don't tell me that the people paying me to learn this from me don't know what I'm talking about.
No, that's actually such an amazing story, because, and you also touched on one of my great quotes from I saw his book just around me, Viktor Frankl, when he talked about in between response and stimuli, there's that pause, and in that pause we can choose our response. We can choose to react or respond. And just even listening to that, also your story just reminds me of a similar story in my own life with my wife. My wife had a brain aneurysm in 2010, and people thought I was crazy. I mean, this is my wife dying on Thursday, Easter Thursday. We're in the hospital. And Friday I had ministration. Sunday I was singing in church, and people are calling me and saying, I remember the church I was going to sing on Friday. The man called me and said, hey, son, you know you don't have to come. I said, no, I'm coming. I'm coming. And Sunday I was singing in church, you know, and why I related it to the book is what makes your story solid is that you've lived it. And I keep telling my clients all the time, you want to make your life the curriculum of your understanding, the curriculum of your learning. You know, Napoleon Hill tells us that in every adversity is the seed of equivalent advantage. And just listening to you saying that experience gave birth to the second part of your life. That same experience for someone else would have ended their lives completely, ended their dream, ended their purpose, ended their vision. But you took your marching orders from that experience, and I hope people are listening, because sometimes I think when people hear us talk as coaches and things like that, they think we're living on another planet.
You know, you hear people. I remember I was facilitating a session for the Institute of Directors on Emotional Intelligence a few days ago, and then somebody wanted to ask a question, and the person began by saying, you know, in a real life situation.
Very fake life situation.
And so I said, so I listened to him when he finished. I said, so do you mean, as far as we are concerned, we're in a class, we're just gisting, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that all the examples I shared in this class, do you think I created them? Those were real life situations, you know. And so a lot of times when people are listening, they listen also with a mental block, saying that, oh, okay, yeah, this is theory. You know, but these are things we have touched, things we have seen, things we keep encountering, you know, from our day-to-day engagement with life, with work, with people.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I could allow you to teach all evening. So when I think emotional intelligence, I think self-awareness, I think self-management, I think empathy, I think social skills, right? And these are some of the hallmarks that makes a leader, you know. And every one of us has been born to lead. Everyone is meant to be leading. And emotional intelligence has been there like forever. And just even listening to that story of yours, you know, your friend was able to piece it back to something that had happened, you know. why do you have an idea why all of a sudden there's this great bust in the subject of emotional intelligence around the world? What has changed?
Okay, so I'm a trained sociologist, and one of the things we learn in sociology, it's about innovation, invention, and discovery. Invention is something that has not in existence before that somebody brings up. Innovation is something that is as a result of discovery, maybe because people have not really paid attention to the thing before now, and then more people are now paying attention to it. We can't say that emotional intelligence is new. The first person to talk about emotional intelligence did in the early 19th century, early 20th century, sorry, 20th century, around 1980s. There's a set of two people, Carl Jung, and his colleague that talked about it. But in the 90s, the person that really laid emphasis on it and made it to spread wide and make people to become more conscious of it is Daniel Goleman, right? It's Daniel Goleman. A lot of people will credit him as the father of emotional intelligence. Some will say as the father of modern emotional intelligence. And as people continue to engage, especially with the advent of technology, you know, as it all becomes to get more complex, as we now say the world is a global village, as all of that continues to increase the stress level of people, you know, as we continue to experience some health challenges that was never there before, you know, and I'm not just talking about Corona of 2020.
It's real,
taking it back, taking it back to an HIV/AIDS of the early 1980s, you know, something that the world has not seen before and that could spread to the entire world, you know, based on certain activities. As all of that continued to happen and people continue, the stress level continues to increase. There's advancement in technology, and the advancement in technology continues to separate people from the reality of interactions. You know, it's a great thing that we can use this device. I am seated in Lagos right now. You're seated in London, I guess. You know, and then we can have this interaction, and people can tune in from all over the globe to be part of this. That is a great thing about technology. But also, the service of technology is we can have the illusion that we're exchanging some chemical reaction, that we can have the illusion that we're exchanging emotions. It is not the same thing if, as I'm watching you right now, it's not the same thing if you are not in the same room. Energy that we exchange that is not via any device. There's an energy exchange that's not via any device. Yes, we can still attempt an exchange of the energy via the device, but there is much more better that we can exchange when there is no device. So as all of those things continue to happen, stress levels continue to increase, people continue to get depressed easily, people continue to get angry, you know, without any explanation. You know, people continue to get fearful without any explanation. I mean, you watch something on social media and then you go to sleep. The next thing is that is what is the content of your dream. And it's probably scary stuff. And then you become fearful. As all of these problems continue to happen, you know, coaches, researchers, psychologists, people seeking meanings, people seeking solutions to problems, start to task the conversation on emotional intelligence to look for solution. And it has great solution. And that's why people are talking about it. Of course, there are pseudos, just like in any industry, you know, where you have pseudos. There are pseudos also talking about emotional intelligence who don't really know what it is that they're talking about. You know, they'll just say that, you know, at times as humans, we also like to sound intelligent. You know, we just drop maybe one statement like that so that people will look at it and say, So there are those things as well. But for me, from my work with people especially, I realize that simplicity wins the game. You know, keep it short, sweet, and simple. And people can hold it, people can work with it, people can always remember it when they need to make decisions, you know, and that's the way it goes. So that's why emotional intelligence is coming up in conversations some more.
So let's just for people who didn't hear your definition initially. So let's start by defining it again, what emotional intelligence is for everybody who's listening or may not be familiar with the term, and why it is so important and why leaders thrivers needs to, and every individual, especially in the times where we live, we need to actually develop and work and learn and grow in this whole subject of emotional intelligence.
Okay, so emotional intelligence is our capacity as individuals to understand our emotions, to manage our emotions, and to understand the emotions of other people and manage their emotions. Why is this important? It is said that if you cannot manage your emotions, you can't even manage your money. If you can't manage your emotions, you can't manage your. That's a quote from a billionaire. Said that if you can't manage your emotions, you can't manage your money. If you can't manage your emotions, you can't manage your money. It means you can't manage yourself. It means you can't manage other resources around you, because the hallmark of leadership is not directing other people. It's not bullying other people. It's not, in fact, the primary skill in leadership is not leading others. The primary skill in leadership is leading yourself, right? It's leading yourself. It's saying to yourself that, I want to stop. Yes, I visited the doctor the other day, and they said to me that I need to stop taking soda. And so because of that, over the next 10 weeks, I will not taste soda. That is self-leadership. That is self-leadership. That's self-control. In that, okay, this thing will normally get me angry, but over the next 4 weeks, yes, I will feel angry. Not that I won't feel angry, but I will not react the way I've always reacted. That is self-leadership. And leaders need to also know, earlier I talked about triggers that I colloquially call mumu button. Leaders need to also know that at times our team members, they have our mumu button. They know that they respond in a particular way, and they will say something. And then they know all they want you to do is to react. And then you're there reacting. Think about this as children and parents. As a child, you probably know the things you say to your parent. And I'm not talking about the mature child now. I'm talking about the teenage child and the under 10 child that knows that, the moment I tell mom this or I tell dad this, they will just go bonkers and start screaming. And so that is what they do. Now, when the parent is emotionally intelligent, the parent will understand her own or his own triggers, such that even the children who like to play pranks anyway, so that the children will not necessarily trigger you into unnecessary anger, into unnecessary panic mode as well. So it is very important for us to develop this emotional intelligence so that we can always say the right thing and do the right thing, even when we're under pressure, so that we can always choose. And I think that is the biggest word, so that we can always choose what to say and what to do in situations. So the camera is in front of you as a leader. The camera is in front of you. You're granting a press release, a press conference. And then and we've seen this happen a lot. One of the journalists just throws a question, and the intention of that question is to throw you off balance. You actually don't have a response to that question. It is probably something personal, and then the person throws it at you. In that scenario, there's a camera in front of you. You're not just one-on-one in the same room with this individual. The whole world is perhaps looking at you. Emotional intelligence says that, remember the Viktor Frankl thing we were talking about, that when the trigger comes, that you pause right before you respond, such that you can think about what to say. Exactly. And nobody will talk about what the journalist is saying again. Everybody's focus will be on what you have said. As a leader, no one will say, oh, well, your team member did this. No, it's always about your own reaction that everybody will talk about. So emotional intelligence will help you to protect your name, to protect your career, to always put your best foot forward, say the right thing at every point in time, and do the right thing at every point in time.
Wow. So when leaders or people even lack emotional intelligence, what are some of the risks, of potential, like you just talked about, a potential cost to their career, and we see this happen all the time. What can you highlight some of this risk apart from just career, some of the risk of not having emotional intelligence?
Great question. On the political scene, it ranges for as bad as wars, getting into war situation. So there's negotiation between country A and country B, but there's no emotional intelligence, and so people become emotional and forget about the conversation and how to meet an amicable resolution. And of course, that leads to war. And imagine the number of people that die in wars, a number of lives that we could have saved if only leaders were emotionally intelligent. In businesses, it could be loss of income, right? That the organization is experiencing loss back to back again. And that so the leadership doesn't have emotional intelligence to serve their two customers, the internal customer and the external customer. The internal customer are the staff members. So because there's lack of emotional intelligence, you bully people anyhow, you don't seek their growth. The communication is not clear enough because you just think that since you've employed them and you're paying them, it is their responsibility to deliver any day, anytime. There is no growth plan for them. There is no employee engagement. All of those things can be facilitated by emotional intelligence. And then so the company continues to record loss time and again. That's on the internal customer part. There's also the external customer part, and that you don't really understand what that consumer behavior is changing, that you are not observing that, oh, consumer behavior is changing, the world is changing. Yeah, people are thinking more digital, even if they are not doing much digital. So since they are thinking more digital, you want to ensure that in your communication, that you are showing that you're on the cutting edge, that you are not showing that that you are not running a business in 2021 with a 1965 or 56 mindset, right? All of those things come to play as well within the business, such that when leaders are highly emotionally intelligent, the company will grow, the team members would grow, the customers will be delighted, there's more money to play around. For political leaders, there will be peace in the land, there will be less of agitation from the different sections. You know, like my country, for example, every now and then people from different ethnic and religious groups are gathering and always, talking to whoever is at the center. So far, the person is not from their ethnic region or from their religious sect, always, throwing shades, always talking against the person at the center. A leadership with emotional intelligence and will seek to understand what these people are talking about and address them prompto. Will show sensitivity when there are crises, when there's chaos, when there's protest. Will show sensitivity. Will not necessarily just ignore, because when you are my leader and you continue to ignore me, you continue to widen the gap between us, and then I can do whatever I like because I've not been properly engaged. And so those are things that can bring more peace and prosperity and productivity in our world, both for developing countries and for developed countries as well.
Wow, amazing. So is EQ something people can fake?
Well, you can't fake it. You can't fake it.
So you can't fake EQ till you make it.
There are moments of truth, and the moment of truth comes, I mean, the real deal. And this is not just about makeup, it's not about makeup. It's not about any facade, because you will deal with tangible issues, with real issues that will really test you, that will test your level of self-awareness of yourself, your level of awareness of yourself. And then you watch yourself behave under certain circumstances. Oh, wow, I could not believe that was me, right? So some things will happen that will test your flexibility, the way you can adapt to situations. Some real test will come, and not you see, the real test in life is not the exams we write and we earn a certificate for. The real test in life are the things that we did not envisage, we did not foresee. It's just land like that. The loss of a loved one, the loss of a loved one that just come suddenly, right? The loss of an income that just happens suddenly. The loss of a loved one who is the source of the income. That's another one, and so that's double jeopardy. And that this person is a loved one and this person is the source of income. I mean, all of those things happen. Life happens. And even if you are faking EQ, when life happens, EQ will either elevate you, help you to prioritize, or man, it will expose you. And the way we say it colloquially, your bum will be on the floor.
So is EQ, is it possible then to be born with emotional intelligence?
So I think for every one of us, we have a measure of strength, and we have a measure of areas of improvement. There's, in as much as psychologists tell us that when a baby comes to the world, that is tabula rasa, meaning there's nothing written in the person's mind. Of course, as the individual continues to engage with his or her environment, certain skills, certain nuances, certain ethics, certain things continue to register in the person's mind, and then the individual can continue to behave based on that. So some people, if the question is it possible for someone to have some level of emotional intelligence from birth? Of course. It is now our responsibility, to consolidate on the things that we have, to further develop that strength to further develop that natural tendency into a skill. I mean, we can even use you as an example. You are a very good singer. You're a very good singer. I'm sure that you perhaps discovered this somewhere along the line in your development, but you've done a lot of work in enhancing that raw talent of yours into something that is marketable, into something that will make people want to continue to invite you to listen to you, for you to bless them. So it was a natural. There's some measure of it, that you probably have beyond your peers as at that time. So, oh man, Aaron is very good. But despite that, all your peers, I mean, all the younger people around you as at that time, were clamoring that, man, this guy is great. Have you heard him sing? You've also disciplined yourself to take that raw talent through a process that it becomes a skill that people want to pay for. And it's the same thing with emotional intelligence. That yes, we may have a measure of it. Some people may be more flexible than others, not necessarily because they've gone through any experience. Just naturally more flexible than others. But you will need flexibility on a high level if you want to continue to thrive. You will need a high level of self-awareness if you want to thrive on a high level. So it's about committing to continuous development of these skills day in, day out, so that you can always thrive.
Continuous development, talking about growth. And you just touched somewhere I wanted to go. I always tell my clients, you can never rise above your self-image. You can never rise higher than your self-awareness. You take a pig out of a swine, you dress it. It's still going back to the swine once it gets the opportunity. Could you delve a bit into self-awareness and self-image and how these things are so key in decision making, and why people feel in a certain way and why, just so that we can rescue. I mean, when you going back to the book on Viktor Frankl, and it's actually a book, a program I'm running with some of my clients at the moment, and you look at a time where there was the Holocaust, but what marked this man separately and differently, that you were able to still observe and learn through what you're going through, and be able and determined to make a choice. I mean, one of those lines talked about you could see people act as saints or demons. What makes a man get themselves so collected that way is emotional intelligence, but it's stronger than that, in that it's actually their level of understanding of their self-management, their self-awareness, and their own self-image. Is that something you could just let people hear it from you instead?
Okay, great. You see, the expression that jumped out with what you're saying is self-doubt. That's the expression that jumped out. Self-doubt. And self-doubt is that I am not sure of my capacity, despite that I have been groomed, despite that I have gone to the school of this particular skill, but I am unsure about my capacity. Despite I have spent time learning, I am unsure about my capacity. Now, if I've not spent time developing the skill and I'm unsure about my capacity, it is still okay. And so the recommendation for that is go learn, go develop your expertise in that area. But when I have developed the expertise, but I am not sure of myself, and I'm always seeking external validation of other people before I am sure of what it is I can do, then there is a challenge. Let me make it clear that we all need validation. We all need to be validated. But when we're dependent on validation, that is where there is a problem. I mean, when you are validated, validation is motivation as well in certain instances. especially depending on the person that is validating you. I mean, think about, and I'm using you as an example again. I don't know why I'm doing this. Think about the year of 25 years ago singing or 30 years ago singing, and then let us assume that then you walked into a concert and the person, the concert you walked in is like a Fred Amon's concert, and then you were just, I'm talking about 30 years ago, and then you were there, singing, feeling the song, and then Fred Amon gives you the microphone 30 years ago, 30 years ago, and just gives you the microphone, and then you sang and sang. And Fred Amon 30 years ago, I'm still repeating 30 years ago. Fred Amon 30 years ago said, wow, what a gift. You could record that, you could frame it.
Record the voice, record everything, record the picture.
Yes, you could frame that. Cool. It doesn't matter who else says, I don't know how to sing. But this guy said I could sing. That is all I need. And remember that I'm stressing 30 years ago. Now, if he says it today to you, it may still mean something, but it will not mean what it meant 30 years ago to you. Yeah. So we need that validation and we'll be motivated. But being dependent on validation, seeking everybody's validation, is where the problem is. So in our decision making, it is important that, yes, we are self-aware. We know what self-awareness is, knowing what our strengths and areas of improvement are. In decision making, you can always check with people. Checking with people, checking with professionals, not just checking with your friend. So that once your friend says it's okay, then it's good. Or checking with your spouse. Once your spouse says it's okay, it's good. By the way, these people care for us, and because they care for us, they want us to take minimal risks as well. They just want to protect us. You see, I mean, your spouse, whether you make more money than this or not, an average spouse will say, "I've married, I'm with you." Your friends, and I mean your friends, not just your schoolmates or your acquaintances, your friends. Whether you are more successful than this or not, they are still your friends. So they want you to be safe. Even when they hear that maybe you want to resign your job, the first set of people that will be apprehensive about your resignation, your spouse, your friends, your family members, especially those who are dependent on you, who think that, oh, wow, once you get off this job, there's no assurance that they will receive anything. They care, and that's why they're like that. So seeking validation from them time and again may even wane your own self-esteem. So when you are checking with professionals, when you are checking with people who have been trained in those areas, it's a great thing to do. It shows humility. It shows that you are teachable. So self-doubt is something we all need to unlearn. And you see, self-doubt comes as a result of many things for many people. For some people, it's because of the kind of parenting that they had. We're all the product of nature and nurture. It could be because of the kind of parenting that they had. It could be because of the kind of siblings that they had. It could be because of the kind of teachers that they had. One of the examples I cite about myself, what led me out of sciences, into social sciences, was because of a teacher who comes to teach us physics. And whenever this gentleman gets into the class in SS1, he will tell us that what is about to teach us that we cannot know it, but he will teach us anyway. What about to teach you? You none of you in this class can know it or pass it, but I will teach you anyway. Of course, that started building up in my mind. I was a very good chemistry student until I got into university and I was interacting with other people. That is when they told me that if you were good at chemistry, then physics is child's play. I said, no. I said, no. You can't say that about physics. Physics? No. I mean, the most difficult subject in the world is physics. I mean, I did further maths as well. I said, I know if you could do all these things, you should be great at physics. Physics is just normal, everyday thing. I said, no. Physics is not normal, everyday thing. Until I had that interaction with them, they broke the hold that physics had on me. But unfortunately, I couldn't go back, to rewrite it. But it has broken the hold on me. So because we're a product of nature and nurture, certain things could be responsible for our self-doubt. And as important, self-awareness is we know the cause of this self-doubt. You may not be able to do it yourself. That's why you need a coach. That's why Aaron is here. Coach Aaron is here. So he can help you to drill down to know the cause of the self-doubt and then provide an intervention such that you're all confident about your decision.
Wow, our time is fast spent. Let me see what I can squeeze it. It's generally said, or based on research, people with average IQ tend to fare well better and even become more successful than people with high IQ. And people with high EQ um, fare even better and tend to thrive successfully than people with high or average IQ. In fact, um, as we see in our world, higher earners are linked with high EQs, not necessarily an IQ. How is this possible, and what are your thoughts on this?
It is possible because it's all about people.
Yeah.
It is all about people. I don't care what you do. What you do is for people. Whether you're writing a program somewhere, whether you're designing an app somewhere, whether you're using artificial intelligence somewhere, the end user is always people. Somebody will be the one to pay you for the work that you are doing. And it's not the robots that will pay you for the work that you are doing, not AI that will, debit some account somewhere.
It's still not going to give you. It's still not going to give you. AI is not going to give you a hug.
No, no. It is still always about people. So the more you can win with people, the better you can get. Now, there are some people who fake this winning with people by manipulating people, such that they didn't start the work with themselves. They start the work with other people. And eventually it shows. Emotional intelligence is not for manipulating people. Emotional intelligence is helping you to develop good self-esteem such that you can reach out to people the most pleasant way to help them as well to achieve their goals. So EQ will always top IQ because IQ is, you colloquially will say, book. And so you learned XYZ in school. What is the practical application of this XYZ?
Exactly.
The practical application of that XYZ has people in it.
That's beautiful. Possibly last question, and then I'll get you to talk about the book and let people know how they can get the book. Education system. Definitely, you and I went to schools where there was nothing EQ taught in our schools. How can this now start to become a subject? What are your thoughts? Or in your part of the world, is that something you're seeing? Clearly, in my part of the world, these are not things that are being taught in the educational system. What's hope for people who are coming behind us to begin to learn these things on emotional intelligence from a very young age?
I think that in the curriculum, in the elementary school curriculum, emotional intelligence should begin, right? All the way to tertiary, it should be a GST or GNS or a general course that everybody takes, so that people can manage them, people can get to understand themselves, manage themselves, and build effective relationships with other people. As we continue to grow our influence, where we can make certain recommendations to policymakers, it is important that we include something like this in the curriculum because it will save the world of a lot of losses. A lot of lives will be saved from dying just because two leaders could not agree, to peacefully coexist, and then they start to shell and people are just dying. It will help some businesses to continue to thrive, to record over 100 years in business, and then you don't just have businesses that will come and go. A lot of emotional intelligence is required to help stabilize businesses, because when we talk about businesses, when we're talking about people, the business is not the structure of a business. It's not just about the buildings, not the machineries, not any property that the business holds. The structure of the business is the people in the business, the aggregation of people. That is why another word for it, they will say organization, meaning people who are organized into different structures. So to help the future, it is important to start to learn from cradle.
That's beautiful. So let's talk about the book. You tell us about the book. How can people get the book? What can they expect to happen to them?
Here it is.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Here it is, The Magic of Emotional Intelligence, How Champions Apply Emotional Intelligence to Achieve Peak Performance and Advancement in Life. Yes, forward by professor from Harvard, Professor Dina Bourne. So it's a great book. And how can you get it? If you go on to www.AbiolaChamp.com right now, you will see how to get the printed version. There's the soft cover, there's the hard cover. If you say that you are a virtual person, so you prefer the digital copies, maybe for the ebook or the audio book, can I type in something quickly? It is, if I type in something here, will everybody see it?
I'm not sure. You can try, we'll learn.
Okay, so this is for the audio.
If you're on the Facebook group, if you tell us what you can do, if you send me the message, and then we will put it on the stream on this link after the show where people can see it. Yeah.
Cool. So there's the audiobook, there's the ebook. I mean, it's available in all versions. And if you want a printed version, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Just go to AbiolaChamp.com, and then we'll reach you. We've been dispatching copies to different cities within the country, within Nigeria, and we're dispatching to different countries as well across the globe.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Just one more question, because I try not to keep my guest after 9 o'clock. One more question, and you talked about a great time of impact in the death of your dad and how that's introduced the second part of your life, pretty much, as you said. Can you share a moment of the leadership or that kind of experience that has had such a tremendous impact on you that has helped shape who you are today?
Okay, so I think the fact that I'm firstborn in Africa, places a lot of responsibilities on you, where you need to, even if the parents are still around, where every now and then they will drum it into your ears that, your siblings are looking up to you. And then you'll be wondering that, hey, guys, I didn't choose to come first. I mean, nobody asked me, nobody gave me a form to fill, and they said I tick the column. First, second, third, fourth, 10th, or 12th. I'm sure if anybody gave me that, I would have chosen 30th. Just let me be the 30th one of 29 people in front of me that I can harass and give them one day a month. I will harass the first on the first day of the month, and I'll harass the 29th on the 29th day of the month. And then I'll just be with myself. So there's that. And I just recalled a moment I wanted to talk about my first job, but something else is coming about my second job. But let me just talk about the second job, which is the place of taking personal responsibility. I remember, and I wrote about this in my first book, Get Mad. You can get Mad on Amazon, everywhere. So it was a holiday. As a banker, when there's a holiday, especially if it's a long weekend, it's quite a luxury, because you probably don't have time to do anything. So it was Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We like public holidays as well in Nigeria. We have a lot of holidays in Nigeria. So on the Saturday, I'll still do some work. The Sunday, I'll still do some work. And I hope that the later part of Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, I will have some time to myself. And then I got a call that my customer needed something on that Sunday afternoon. So I rushed to the customer's house, did a few things, went back to the office on that Sunday. Then on Monday, that was supposed to be a public holiday, my colleagues joined me in the office, and then we didn't have to start working on the credit. We worked on it Monday, Tuesday, public holiday, got approvals from all our bosses wherever they were in the world, and then final approval came on the Wednesday when business has started. Now I'm jumping this story because of time to get to where exactly I'm going. So I remember that the personal assistant to the personal assistant of the customer, so that you have an idea who the kind of customer is. The personal assistant and the personal assistant of the customer had called me on Wednesday morning to say, hey, where's our document? I'm traveling. I said, well, the document is not ready. So I told him that you should not worry, you should go to the airport, that I will meet up with him as soon as I have the document. So I got the document at about 1:30 p.m. that afternoon. The guy was already at the airport. I called him that I was coming. Then I jumped on the bike, and I jumped on the bike to move from the island from the island part of Lagos to the airport, which is far away on the mainland. Now, if you're on this call and you don't really know Lagos, you may not appreciate some part of the story, So jump on the bike from the island part of Lagos to far away to the mainland. And then, of course, pass through Third Mainland Bridge, the longest bridge, they say, over water in Africa. And then finally got to the place, jumped down from the bike, was trying to pay. The bike man had the phone in my ears, tried to talk to the person I was looking for. His phone was off. So practically the plane was leaving the tarmac when I got there. And then, just imagine I started doing this work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Now this is Wednesday afternoon, so instinctively, the only other thing I could think of was to go to the desk and ask when the next flight going to its destination was, because the document was so sensitive, you couldn't even courier it because you don't want a situation. It's so sensitive that it is okay for you to be lost. And the document is, because of the value of the transaction, because of everybody involved in the transaction, it is okay for you to be lost. And then they can now say, people, we're looking for this guy. We will spend all the money to find him. And for that document to be lost, and so... Wow. So I took the next flight. So he had arrived on the other side. I was still in Lagos, and I called and I, what, not to worry, I'm bringing the document to you. Just wait for me at the airport. So the intention was I would get to the airport on the other side, hand them the documents, and then take the next flight and return to Lagos. So you can guess this was around now 6:30 that we got on the flight, and then we got to this town, and brother, we could not land in the town. We were hovering in the sky. So we spent about an hour between Lagos to get to the place. Then we spent about another hour hovering in the sky because the cloud was thick. So we couldn't land. That was the day I realized if you think Nigerians are religious, you don't have to be in that plane that day to see how religious people got. People that you normally think that they don't care about religion or God because of the way they dressed or the way they were talking to people. Everybody became a Muslim or a Christian almost immediately. Saying prayers, but it was quite traumatic, and so eventually we had to return to Lagos that night. We could not land, return to Lagos. Then the following day, I took the first flight back to that destination to make sure that I get the work done. And of course, got the work done. The rest is history. Now, the question you asked is, has there been any situation that tested my leadership? And that's personal leadership. The commitment you have to serving.
To follow through, to finish.
Yeah, to follow through, to finish. Yeah. A lot of people, a lot of my colleagues said, Guy, since you have tried that first day, you almost lost your life. And then you now got on another plane again. You didn't go by road the following day. You went by confidence that the same thing won't happen. And some people started getting overly religious, that the Lord that saved you from the plane crash just day, and they are now trying that God. And it's just about following through. It's a critical personal leadership skill, that you start something. You and I know about setting your hand on the plow and looking back, not being fit to be called a champion or not being fit to be called a thriver. So it's about that following through. Now, some people will ask me a question that, I hope at the end of the day, when you delivered that for the organization and a lot of money came into the organization, hope they give you like 3 steps, higher. I said, no. I said, no, that's not the intention, because the gain from that thing is not extrinsic, it is intrinsic. So now I'm doing Champ, we're doing all the things we're doing. It is those extrinsic, it's those intrinsic values
that you were learning in those days. That's where you built the muscle for that.
Exactly. So there are plenty of stories, but it's okay.
Wow. We could talk all night. Everybody, thank you. Let's go ahead and say a big thank you to Mr. Abiola Champ. Everybody who's been blessed tonight. It's been such an amazing conversation. We're definitely going to bring you again. We need to have great conversations. I mean, there's just so much. Mr. Abiola Champ, thank you so much. Thanks for gracing us here at the Thrivers. We're definitely going to have you again. Send me that link. I'm going to put it on this thread so that people can get the book. I'm going to get the book myself. Once again, everybody, another great Monday. I know we went over a bit. Apologies. We're back here. Hopefully next week, Monday. People are sending in their thank yous. Hopefully next week, Monday. I don't know who my guest is yet, but you can be sure that we will definitely have someone who would come share with us and teach us and give us great insight. The stuff we had today. God bless. All right. Bye, everybody. And God bless you all till we'll see you again. Bye.
Thank you very much.